Hello everyone. Thank you for checking out today's video. I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. Let's get started. Anesthesiologists, what are the best things people have said under the gas? Two of my fav, both patients coming out of anesthesia. Am I in hell? I responded, no you're not, you're just in recovery. That sounds like something the devil would say. Count backwards from 100 to prove it. Or the one who stroked my unshaved arm while I was trying to keep him from pulling at his fourth and muttered, you'd make such a great carpet. ETA, yikes, you people really like hairy arm carpets. I love the implication that the devil can't count backwards. Might be the patient's lucid dreaming test. Do you have a test? I look at my hand or try to flip a light switch or lamp on or off. I think those are really common ones, but I'm not sure. When I got put under for a colonoscopy, I didn't really fall asleep during the countdown. I just looked at the nurse a bit confused and said, I don't notice anything. And she smiled and squeezed my wrist and said, just give it a moment. As soon as she said that, I started fading out, and according to her the last thing I mumbled was, oh that's fucked, you magic witch. This one is my favorite. I had to go under for ear surgery once. I thought it'd be funny if I asked, does anyone need anything while I'm out, right before I went under. I remember it kicking in way quicker than I thought it would, so I had to take my chance while I still had it. I yelled it, but got a very confused look from everyone standing around me. Took a minute for me to realize I had accidentally yelled it while I was waking up from surgery. Oops. Ping. 8000 ms. The lag is real. My husband went under last year, and once he woke up, by our appearances he was as sober as a church mouse. Walking, asking serious questions of the doctor, apparently no issues at all. He remembered the procedure and described it to me in detail. I figured he just never went completely under. He was craving Chinese food, and nothing would do except for buffet, so we headed down and loaded up our first load of plates. Evidently, he actually woke up from the anesthesia at the buffet. As far as he remembers, he was put under and woke up in front of a plate of chicken teriyaki on a stick. Okay, that's wild lol. I had a similar incident with a concussion 14-year-old trying to impress friends at summer camp on the first day. Jumped over a picnic bench, cleared it easily. Didn't see that there was a rock the size of a two fists where I landed. Ended up tripping over that and slammed my head on the dirt. Got up immediately, played it off like nothing happened. Since I landed on dirt, I didn't have too bad of a scrape. Ended up chatting with everyone. Jumped the picnic bench again, since I was mad at what happened. Walked a girl to her cabin and told her I liked her. Walked to my cabin, grabbed my toiletries. Went to the bathroom, took a shower. This is when I woke up. Had everything explained to me after. Also, showered with my shirt and socks on. Forgot those. Same. Fell from a tree when I was 10. Got up and went on with my shenanigans for hours, gathering nuts and stuff. Eventually woke up in front of the TV, confused as fuck, wondering why there's nuts in my pocket. I slowly started remembering everything. My friend also told me I talked to a girl I liked. We weren't friends or anything, so I wouldn't normally do that, but that one I didn't remember, so I think he was just messing with me. Kind of a reverse story. Going under to get my appendix removed, they begin doing the countdown as they inject a hefty dose of propofol and fentanyl to put me out. I count down to 1 and then ask, now what? The surgeon looks at me and says, you're still awake. Man. You are fat, you know that? I said, you're just saying that because you think I won't remember. He said, exactly. That's the last thing I remember. That must have been awkward when you woke up. I told him when I saw him a day later. He kinda chuckled and said he'd better watch what he says from now on. Considering the level of education required to be an anesthesiologist, it makes sense that he wasn't overly concerned about his job security. My wife was getting a spinal tap, and while everything was being prepared, our anesthesiologist got a call for what must have been an optional or on-call gig. I can't come in, I've been out, and I'm drinking copious amounts of alcohol. Bye, and hangs up. Nurse anesthetist here. When I was in school I was getting ready to get a lady off to sleep and going through my regular spiel. I had the mask on her face and I said nice big breaths as I pushed propofol. Right before she went out she said thanks, I just had them done. I looked at my preceptor, we looked at the circulator, and we all burst out laughing. I now say slow deep breaths instead. I love telling that story. That lady made all our days. My dad works with that stuff. Funniest thing he's heard is hey Mr. Doctor? My ass itches and I'm too high to scratch. Edit. No he didn't help. The dude passed out right after. My wife is an anesthesiologist and her best line from a patient is this is better than meth. Reminds me of when I tried liquor for the first time with my parents as a teenager and I accidentally told them that I liked vodka better. When I was 9 and having jaw surgery, the surgeon was putting me under and said say bye to your mommy. And apparently 9-year-old me thought that meant they were going to kill me. My mother says I gave her a look of absolute terror and then passed out. You poor thing. Not an anesthesiologist, but when I went in for my gallbladder surgery the nurse was an old cow walker and I blurted out on the table I knew you'd see me naked before I was out. Glorious. In high school I had a reconstructive surgery on my knee as I tore my ACL and meniscus in a sports injury. After the surgery I woke up in post-op, which was a fairly large room with probably 6 to 7 other patients in beds waiting to become conscious again. I was lying there all groggy and confused when 2 nurses walked over pushing one of those carts with a computer on it. They stood over me and were typing into the computer when one nurse said to the other in a sort of frantic whisper we've got to plug this thing in or this one is going to die. Naturally, semi-conscious me thought that the thing was me and I started to incoherently yell for the nurses to unplug whatever they needed to in order to find an outlet to keep me alive. Turns out it was the battery on the laptop that was going to die. Apparently the death rate for an ACL repair is pretty low. I broke my hand tumbling once and had to get surgery. He goes to put the mask on my face and says this is oxygen. I cough as the mask goes on. He pulls the mask away and I said I trusted you. You lying fuck. That's the last thing I remember. Not an anesthesiologist, but was a tech. Had a patient wake up violently. When he came to he said, sorry, I thought I was a shark. Not an anesthesiologist, but my tight-laced, extremely Christian great-grandma apparently asked who the fuck is that ugly son of a bitch while she was waking up from a surgery. The person she was referring to? Her preacher who stopped by to check up on her. She never lived that one down. The story was even told at her funeral. She was kinda strict, but she was a great lady with a great sense of humor. I was coming out of general anesthesia after a surgery to repair a broken leg. I woke up in my room with about a dozen very caring, kind friends and relatives who had all come to see that I was okay. I looked around, saw everyone giving shits about me, said, fuck this loudly and very clearly, and went right back to sleep. My friends thought it was hilarious. My mom was mortified. Similar story. I was coming out of general anesthesia for an emergency appendectomy. Woke up, my family was all in the room. Remember feeling warm fuzzies that they were so concerned for me and thought I just dozed back off. Turns out, I woke up, surveyed them, locked eyes with my mom, and said I told you I didn't just have menstrual cramps. Then passed back out, with a smug look on my face. I like that in your highest moment your basic instinct was to rub it in your mother's face that she was wrong hahaha. I'm an anesthesiologist. I was recently taking care of a 17-year-old kid and he looks at me and says dude, I'm high as fuck. They almost never remember it afterward. So just an anecdote about being a patient. I had reconstructive surgery on my knee. Midway through the surgery I woke up. I didn't feel anything aside from my body moving. I saw the surgeon literally wrenching on my knee. I started to mumble something, and that is when the anesthesiologist said, go back to sleep scraps. I said okay and I remember nothing else until I woke up in the recovery room. Another surgery later, I was pretty chummy with the surgeon. We joked around a lot. The last thing he said as I was going under with a big smile was so we're doing this on the right leg right? It was my left. We had a good laugh at my follow-up later. when I was about to go out for surgery. They were strapping me down and told me it was so that I don't fall off the table. My last words were, "It's okay, 5-second rule." My fiancé and I had broken up within the last week and was still dealing with that horribly. I was on pain meds for my shoulder and was scheduled for surgery in the current week. The day of the surgery, I was to get a nerve block. The anesthesiologist was the one performing the nerve block. He and I were chit-chatting, and he was just a really comforting person. He was telling me about everything that was going to go on during the surgery. Then we were just chit-chatting about life when the topic of the breakup came up. He was even comforting with that. So after that, I was wheeled into surgery. He was there to put me under, which for some reason put me at great ease. As I was going under, I guess I started talking through the mask and he lifted the mask to hear what I was trying to say. When I boldly stated I still love you while holding direct eye contact with him. I didn't know I did it. Not until he visited me in recovery. He said thanks for the nickname. Then told me what I said. I guess the entire surgical staff referred to him by my fiancé's name for the duration of the surgery. So not only did I call this poor guy a woman's name that stuck with him for the duration for the surgery, I stated how much I loved him to boot. When I went back for the second surgery, guess who my anesthesiologist was? Regardless of my foul ups, he is an awesome anesthesiologist and really good at his job.